There's something I've noticed about high-performing professionals. They rarely ask for help, not because they don't need it, but because they don't know how to. If you're the capable one, the reliable one, the one who always figures it out, this might be for you. And the cost is heavier than you realize. Today we're unpacking why you don't ask for help and how that habit quietly fuels burnout. You ready? Let's get into it. I've spent over 20 years in corporate environments, high accountability roles, deadlines, deliverables, real pressure. And here's what I've seen repeatedly. The most competent people struggle the most with asking for help, not because they're weak, but because their identity is tied to being strong. Let's define this clearly. This isn't about arrogance. It's about self-reliance becoming identity. Self-reliance becomes a problem when you don't just prefer doing things yourself, you feel unsafe not doing them yourself. That's the shift. And that's where burnout begins. Reason one, the competency identity. If you're known as the one who handles it, you start protecting that reputation. You don't want to be the person who can't cope, who drops the ball, who needs support. So you tell yourself, it's quicker if I do it. I don't want to burden anyone. I'll just push through it. But what's really happening? You fused your worth with your output, and asking for help feels like cracking the image. High performers don't fear work. They fear being seen as less capable. Reason two, which is control feels safer. When you ask for help, you give up control, and control feels stabilizing. You know your standards, you know your pace, you know how you think. So when someone else steps in, what happens? You risk miscommunication, delay, lower quality, dependency. So you stay overloaded because overload feels more predictable than uncertainty. But predictable pressure still drains you. Reason three, which is fear of judgment. Sometimes the real fear is this: if I ask for help, they'll think I can't handle my role. In many corporate environments, strength looks like silent endurance. You don't want to look incapable. You don't want to look emotional. You don't want to look overwhelmed. So you say nothing and you accumulate exhaustion quietly. So here's the irony. The same people who admire your competence would probably respect your clarity even more. But you never test that theory. Here's why this matters. When you don't ask for help, you're carrying invisible cognitive load. You delay recovery. You normalize overwhelm. And you reinforce isolation. So imagine carrying a backpack. At first, it's light. A few files, a few deadlines, some responsibility. Then you keep adding to it because you don't want to hand anything to anyone. You tell yourself, it's fine, I can manage. And no one sees the weight because you're still walking normally. Until one day, you're exhausted and you don't even know why. So that's what silent self-reliance does. It doesn't break you immediately. It wears you down gradually. And endurance without relief is what eventually tips into burnout. So, what's the shift? You don't go from hyper independent to emotionally exposed overnight. You really start small. Instead of saying, I need help, you can say, can you review this with me? Can we think through this together? What's your perspective on this? You move from surrendering control to sharing thinking. Now that's strategic because strength isn't carrying everything. It's knowing what not to carry alone. There was a period in my career where I felt responsible for almost everything. If something mattered, I felt I should personally drive it, personally follow it, and personally make sure it didn't slip. It looked thorough, but it wasn't sustainable. What I eventually learned, especially working in change, is that results don't come from one person absorbing pressure. They come from clarity. Clarity on roles, clarity on strengths, clarity on who owns what. When I started leaning on my team based on their defined roles and dividing the work accordingly, two things happened. The quality improved and the pressure reduced. Not because I did less, but because I stopped carrying what wasn't mine alone to carry. That's not stepping back, that's working within structure. So, if you struggle to ask for help, you're probably highly competent. But competence without boundaries turns into burnout. So, here's the question. Where are you carrying something that you should share? Comment below, shared strength. And if this video resonated, watch the video on when being good at your job starts working against you. Because sometimes the very traits that built your success are the ones quietly exhausting you. Remember, you don't need to prove strength by carrying everything.